the show started out as the Rocky Horror Show in a tiny little theater in London. And then when it came to America, it got picked up actually as the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which turned it into this cult phenomenon. And due to that, the stage show got revamped and also developed a cult following because, you know, it's fun to throw stuff at people on a stage as opposed to throwing stuff at a screen. So basically what's happened throughout the years is new and new generations have been introduced to it, and it just keeps spreading. Well, when it first came out, it was pretty shocking. I mean, you know, people in drag and the content, the main line is "don't dream it, be it," which is, if you feel a certain way, you might as well behave that way, which was pretty shocking back in the 60s, and even today is still pretty shocking. There's still a large percentage of the people who are pretty conservative, I believe. You know, you don't see many transvestites out on the street. And the great thing about the Rocky Horror Picture Show and the Rocky Horror Show is that it allows whoever you are, no matter your situation, to feel comfortable with people around you because you don't have to feel inhibited about how you feel on the inside.
Rocky Horror is a cult classic. It kind of goes through the eyes of Brad and Janet, who are this happily engaged couple, and they go on a car trip to visit their friend, Dr. Scott. And along the way, one of their front tires blows out. So they go up to this castle to ask so they can get a tow truck. And they run into Frankenfurter, which is my character, and he is a sweet transvestite, and much fun ensues.
It's a very interesting cast in the sense that they are absolutely wild, which is fantastic for their roles because they have to be in order to be in this kind of show. So it's a lot of fun in rehearsals. They bring a lot to the plate. They are having these takes on their characters that I never would have fathomed, which is just absolutely brilliant, and really veering away from the stock characters that were created in the picture show, which is really interesting, and I think the audience is going to find that just hilarious.
Well, my role is Frankenfurter, and he's a transvestite. Richard O'Brien, who wrote Rocky Horror, throughout his entire life had issues with gender and identity, and this was sort of his piece to sort of figure out who he was as a person. So for me, I believe that Frankenfurter is sort of that individual who's struggling with his sexual identity and playing with it as well. You know, he's a transvestite, so he wears heels, he wears a corset, he, you know, kind of blows the normality of what male and female is out of the water and kind of creates a new sexuality for himself.
My character, if you've seen the movie, is actually the floating mouth at the beginning of the show. Sometimes she's tied with another character, but it's separate for this show, and so I open the show and I sing with the Phantoms through all the numbers doing accompaniment, and then I close the show at the end. I think some of the biggest challenges with this role were just kind of learning to step outside my normal comfort zone and play a character that's totally different from anything I've ever done before, because usually, like, when I've been in shows, it's kind of like a character that's kind of like you, so you can really like draw from that. But she's not like me at all. She's very down and on drugs or who knows what. So it's just like stepping outside of my comfort zone and really taking on a different persona. It's been the biggest challenge for sure.
It is very hard to tweak Rocky Horror because it is so ingrained in people's minds as something very specific. You know, Columbia's sparkly hat, tap dancer, those kind of things. So when I was thinking about how I was going to do it, I was thinking about it more from my standpoint, you know, where I am in life and how old I am and the circumstances around me. So in this case, instead of them actually being Transylvanians, they're actually street kids. So they have drug problems and, you know, sex addictions just as the Transylvanians did, only this time we're dealing with it more as an issue.
We're staying straight to the script, however, we're not staying true to the movie per se. Halle, who was our director, had a much different idea as to how our characters should be portrayed. It's much darker and less of a, It's still a cult classic, but it has more of a meaning behind it. Maybe a little bit more relevance to students in our generation, or perhaps more relevance to those students who are homeless and trying to figure out what their place in society is.
Well, our musical director had a pretty big job ahead of him. Rocky Horror is already rock music, but we want it to be really rock music. I mean, rock music from the 60s is very different from rock music nowadays, and that's what we really wanted to add to that. So basically what we've been doing is playing around with what the score is, adding a lot to it, taking away certain more stereotypical musical theater bits, I suppose, which has been a lot of fun, and the cast is having a great time with that because they get to use their voices in ways they normally wouldn't in a musical.
It's just so bizarre. I really think that what brings people to Rocky is the kind of quirkiness of it. It's really like kind of something that it's not really like in the forefront of most people's minds, but then they hear about it and they've heard about it. They know, everybody knows the time warp. Like it's a classical piece that is weird, and that's why people love it so much.
Rocky Horror is a cult classic. It's a very fun show. There are some timeless classic songs. The Time Warp is one of them, which I know a lot of people know and would enjoy hearing again. And it's just a fun show, and the twist on the show is great, and our band and actors and our publicity team and production team are absolutely fantastic, and they've done a fantastic job.
Well, for the hardcore fans who have seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show a few times and even seen it on stage, I think this is a great opportunity to see something different done with the show. I've never seen a show in which it was set differently, in which there was a difference in the time period, or in which any of the characters were really changed in terms of their personality. So I think for the hardcore fans who are maybe looking for something more out of Rocky Horror, this is where they'll be able to find it.